Miami Condo Mondays is a live podcast on the first workday of the week at 4 p.m. South Florida time. The program features former journalist and current Wall Street consultant Peter Zaleski of the Miami Condo Investing Club and former lender and veteran condo broker Jenny Huertas of CVRealty.com. Recorded weekly in greater downtown Miami, this 1-hour discussion will provide a refreshing and sometimes controversial perspective on the state of the South Florida condo market from a pair of seasoned real estate professionals who do not always agree. The program won't tell you what to think about the South Florida condo market, but will give you something to think about before buying, selling, taking listings, or financing units. This podcast is not authorized by the Miami real estate industry and will quite possibly annoy many of its figureheads. Welcome to this week's episode of Miami Condo Mondays, broadcast live on the social media accounts of Peter Zaleski and Jenny Huertas.
Happy Monday, Miami. This is Miami Condo Mondays, a conversation about what's going on with the condo market in Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County. We're going to be talking about the Brickell Avenue area this week. Why? They just took down the Mandarin Oriental Hotel. They blew it apart. It was controlled, so they say, but there's a lot of dust all over the bay. I worry about the manatees. I worry about the fish. I worry about the overall ecology. I'm not saying I'm woke. I'm not saying I'm real far left, but this is something you need to factor in. But we're talking about Brickell Avenue. We're talking about the Mandarin coming down. We're also talking about the 20-year anniversary of Condo Vultures. 20 years ago, we started operating, and our tagline was killing comps since 2006, and we're still trying to do it. How do we do it? We use it. We do it by data. We expose what the real data is, and a lot of times it contradicts maybe what some of the sell-side people are talking about. So we're going to talk about all three of those things. I'm Peter Zaleski, condo consultant, expert witness, founder of the Miami Condo Investing Club. I'm joined here by my partner, my co-host, Jenny Huertas. She's a broker owner of CVR Realty. Check out her website, cvrrealty.com. Jenny, you went out there, you saw the Mandarin, you saw it get taken down. It was built on this man-made island back in 2000 or so. It was charging $500, $600, $700 a night 20-something years ago. And they just took it down. They just imploded it. It didn't all necessarily go as planned, but they were able to take it down. What was your reaction when you saw it firsthand? Just of you, I don't know, half a mile away?
Yeah, I was pretty close because I was rushing there, and unfortunately they were in a little bit of the Miami time, so they were a few minutes behind. It was like a really American show with the fireworks first, and then the blue and red colors, and then they turned it down. And I never seen an implosion myself in person. And I was very close because I was just across the bridge. So yes, I had to run for all the smoke. And yeah, I was something because it was an icon. I had to go to memory line on my photos when we didn't take photos all the time, 20 years ago or 10 years ago. Instagram wasn't that popular, so we didn't document our lives or our work life all the time. But yes, I will definitely share later on some photos from back then. Mandarin Oriental was a real nice hotel. I had the chance to use their spa, their restaurant, Lamar, and Peter, you're in one of my photos because we're celebrating something of the business there. And, it was nice because the island itself is not super high, tall towers. But yeah, you could tell that the land where they have like the Bayfront Club it was land that was there and underutilized. And also on the back, it was like a park that was never a park. It was part of the development site. So I can see how with years that will be, redeveloped. I didn't expect that they were going to knock it down. I expect to have, something different. I sent it to my friend that lives in Spain. I said, wait a minute, that was only like 25 years old. How that's considered old? They say, no, it's not considered old, but the use of the land is considered obsolete. So that's what it is. It's nothing like that. The character of the island, the the family-friendly place. I do walk there for exercise. So I walk from downtown on the way, and I used to go around the island. It's 5 miles round trip. It's a beautiful walk. It's on the water. Obviously, right now, for many years, I won't be able to do it because half of the island is blocked and will be during the construction. But the gentrification is on our face. The super tall luxury tower is coming to replace this beautiful piece of land, and I have mixed feelings about it. And a lot of people that I talk to, people that live there, some of them are pro, some of them are say no. That's gonna impact our lifestyle. And who knows? Some people is pro development, some people is anti development. Some people is pro having more people to pitch in, and some people is against it. So you're always gonna have that division of opinions there. That was definitely an experience. I had great memories of that place. I thought it was great. So yeah, that was my impression. I was a little bit scared too, because when I saw the implosion, I'm looking at its control, looking at it. But I don't know, anything that can be wrong. So I got the impression of us to be so coveted that we never see implosions, or bombs or anything. And in this particular moment in history that we are seeing, all these wars, they're like, oh, wow, that's what the people had to deal with. This is crazy that we in the United States never had to deal with that. When you talk to people in Europe, their grandparents, they lived through it. So it was kind of like made you think about it.
Yeah, interesting. Jenny, one of the reasons we're going to talk about Brickell today. One of the reasons that we are talking about the Mandarin, besides it coming down, is we're doing a tour this Saturday, Jenny. It's a season finale for our Brickell Avenue Condo Correction walking tour. We're doing it this Saturday, everybody. The 18th of April, starts at 10 o'clock, goes till about 1 o'clock, walk about 4 miles, moderate pace. We're going to give you a list of all the condo projects that exist there. By the way, it's over 100 towers, 30,000 units in that Brickell Avenue area, which you go from the Miami River south to the Eddie Rickenbach Causeway. It'll be Biscayne Bay, west Interstate 95. We're going to be wandering all around there, Jenny. We're going to wander past the Mandarin site. We'll point it all out to everybody. We'll talk about the 2 towers that they claim are going to get built. So we'll see. Supposedly 100% sold out, 500% sold out. We'll see. We're also going to walk past, Jenny, on that tour on Saturday. We're walking past the Mercedes-Benz project, the tower that's going up, supposedly, with the Mercedes brand associated with it. But a little bit of a problem along the way. South Florida Business Journal reported the Mercedes-Benz project got hit with an $80 million foreclosure. How does a project with the Mercedes flag, how does it, what's going on there? So we'll discuss a little bit about that. All pure speculation. We're going simply off of reports coming out by the media. A story was broken by the South Florida Business Journal, came out over, 2 weekends ago or so, a little bit over a week ago. So we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about the tour. We'll talk about the numbers, Jenny. We're actually seeing the amount of supply in the Brickell Avenue area. It's actually come down a little bit. So the question is, did it come down because people are pulling their listings because we're at the end of the winter buying season, or did it come down because more transactions are going forward? We'll discuss a little bit about that. But Jenny, before we get into all of that, and by the way, if anybody is interested on the going on the tour on Saturday, starts at 10 o'clock, goes till 1. It's the 18th of April. Go to miamicondo.club. Up at the top, you'll see a tour. Or what you can do is you can go ahead and go directly to the ticketing agency, which is called Eventbrite. You can find it by going to miamicondoclub.eventbrite.com. If you guys have any interest in going on the Brickell Avenue tour, this is the week to do it, because once we get into the summer begins on May 1st. We're going to be doing a little bit less regularly. We'll be doing it sporadically, simply because of weather, because of rain, because of hurricane warnings, heat, humidity, all that type of stuff. So if you guys want to do Brickell, it's got to be this Saturday. So we're wrapping it up, if you will, as we get to these last 18 days of the winter buying season. Jenny, before we kind of get started on that, we're going to go back to the Mandarin, but let me just say, we did a podcast last Wednesday. We celebrated 20 years. 20 years ago, we launched Condo Vultures. I was a journalist at the time. I left journalism, went ahead, set up this company. It was meant to take advantage of big data and use it against developers on behalf of buyers who were looking for opportunities, set up a buy-side brokerage, pull the data. Today, AI is able to collect a lot of data, or so they say. It's not really good at looking at public records. They're not really good at going down to the courthouse, not really good at getting their hands on all of it. But back then, we were modeling buildings, we were coming up, we were creating standards. We came up with the name Greater Downtown Miami. Before that, it was called Greater Miami. And their line was gerrymandered based on a taxing district called the Miami Downtown Development Authority Taxing District. We're the ones who came up with the Julia Tuttle, South of Reckenbacher, the Bay, I-95. Nobody knew that stuff before. We came up with how the submarkets work. We tried tracking the numbers. Just like Jenny, we've come up with vintage condos. If you guys hear anybody saying vintage, that's us, 30 years or more. We came up with that. We've also come up with a variety of other things along the way, and it's all meant to try to give information, share information, to basically give buyers an advantage, or more so, bring some reality to the sell side. Some of you might be watching this. You're on the listing side. Chances are you're not moving that product. Why aren't you moving that product? It's too damn high. It's out of whack, and yet you don't know how to have that conversation with your seller. Using data like we put out can be helpful. I have some friends who are on the listing side. They take my stuff, they go ahead, they pitch it to their seller, and you know what happens? The sellers tend to cut prices. They tend to cut prices because it's all about the numbers. Jenny, how important are the numbers 20 years later? And by the way, I noticed you got the Condo Vultures colors flying. You got the green, you got the black.
Celebrating the milestone. Peter, at the end of the day, Condo Vultures and yourself is going to have a place in history in the condo industry.
History.
Because
I don't think a lot of developers want to hear that. Jenny, listen, you were right there side by side. You're the one who came up with the tour idea. Back in December of 13, you came up with that tour idea. So if I'm there, you're there.
No, most definitely. And I don't think the developers, they have kind of a relationship with you of love and hate but definitely respect, because numbers don't lie. And actually, you know that throughout your professional life, you also do consulting for people that wants to develop here. So it's not that you're against completely or completely against the listing agents, or no, it's you are putting in perspective the whole market, not from the point of view or always marketing, but from the point of view of the stats. And nobody had the stats back then. You created those stats and those white papers that you used to sell. Now we have more access to data, but with that, you can manipulate that data. And then the marketing comes along. And then you talk only about the rosy part of it, and you don't talk about realities. When you do the marketing for a city, for example, you always show the beach, you always show the beautiful people, the beautiful restaurants, but then you don't show, the west of the city, or where the people that don't have the means live and how they look like and all that. So it's about the marketing, and you are more like referee, where you're going to say, you know what, this is what it is. Yeah, it's all good, but it's also another reality in our industry. And remember, Miami, as you always said, is a condo lab. And with that, Condo Vultures came and put a big tent. Nobody took that space but you, because nobody wants to do the work. It's hard work, guys. Nobody understands how hard it is to really sit down and analyze objectively a market like that. So kudos to you, kudos to me, kudos to us. And we continue to be relevant, continue to follow the trend, see what the people is doing. And with that, we can really provide a sense of reality to buyers, sellers, investors, people that is in the industry, other brokers, realtors that cooperate with us. So it's more than just a group of people. We also had to do with lenders, lawyers. It's a bunch of people that is there, and as we know. So yeah, it is. It's pretty remarkable that it's been 20 years. That we're giving up our ID there, but with that comes the spirit.
That's right. And if anybody wants to see our celebration, We did a live stream. I made it available. If you go to our website, miamicondo.club, you can go ahead and you can watch the entire celebration. We brought people in we haven't seen forever and ever and ever. They all jumped on. It wasn't all of them, but it was some of them that we met kind of along the way. If you guys want to laugh, I'd encourage you, and you want to get a sense of kind of what it was like back then. We talk about the Michael Moore movie, Capitalism, a Love Story. We talk about the premiere party we had. We talk about 60 Minutes. Jenny, remember Scott Pelley, the guy from 60 Minutes, the guy who headed CBS National News. We talk about him. We talk about some of the journalists along the way. We talk about some of the developers that aren't still around. They passed, they did whatever. We talked about a whole variety of different topics. We got into some of the nuts and bolts, sort of the kind of behind the scenes type of stuff. So I'm not going to call it a director cut, but it's, it's definitely worth a laugh. You'll see some of the characters around. We talked about somebody who wasn't directly involved with Condo Vultures, but was on the peripheral. This guy was working at a bank that ultimately failed. Before it failed, he wasn't making any money on financing. So you know what he was doing? He was going on the bank's computer terminal. He was buying shorts. He was shorting the bank stock using the bank's computer terminal. So we talk about all kinds of characters, a much different world back then. But Jenny, listen, something that was sort of critical and sort of the approach that I take that I think has been lost on a lot of people is back in the day you had newspapers. You had hard copy papers. You would get the paper, you get it in the morning, you open it up, you want to see what's on there. If you were, you were in the headlines or you had a front page story, it was a big deal because everybody was reading it. Nobody reads it anymore. They all go to social media. They go to Twitter. They go to Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, whatever the heck they're into. But back then, Jen, there were titans of real estate. People used to track the data. They used to put it out. These were voices you could listen to because they were gonna set it straight. They weren't gonna give you the spin. And everybody understands there's two sides to every trade. You got the sell side, which primarily is going to be the industry. They go out there. Their job is to sell stuff, and we completely understand that. But you used to have analysts that would come out on the buy side who would, they push back against information. So, you can always get analysis. You get buy side, you get sell side, and buy side's trying to get the price lower, sell side's trying to get the price up. But Jenny, when I was a journalist, I was fortunate enough to work with a lot of these people, to get to know them. People like, and I'm going to pull names out of, left field. Guy called Larry Berger. Larry Berger is the one who came up with, back in the day at the Miami Herald, there's something called the Business Monday section. It was a Monday section that came out at Profile Businesses. This guy did a radio program on WLRN, where WLRN used to actually have a business program where they would introduce the community leaders to the area. I got to work with him. He was a hard charger. Who else did I get to work with, Jenny? I worked with a guy called Charlie Kimball, before the big data. He used to have index cards. If anybody's ever gone to a library, I don't think libraries still got them. They had these index cards. He would write down the transactions on a property. He would keep them all. When he ultimately passed, the family gave me the index cards, just to give you an idea. So I'd work with him. Had the pleasure of working with a guy called Michael Y. Cannon. Mike Cannon was everywhere. He was sort of a bull. He was always positive, but he was always talking about the market. He would do expert witness. I've done some podcasts with him. Well, back then they weren't called podcasts. We did some interviews. I got to work with him. I got to know him. A guy called Lou Goodkin. Lou's out in California right now. He's done a lot of studying about the Miami market. He's been Urban Land Institute, other things. He just got named to a board by Governor Newsom out of California to deal with the workforce housing and the affordable housing and all that type of stuff in California. The guy was around. I got to work with him. And then another one who's sort of always ahead of his time, a guy called Jack McCabe Research and Consulting. I still get Jack on podcasts. So I guess what I'm saying, Jenny, is, I had the opportunity to work with these people. And these are the people who are basically pushing back or bringing some clarity to the market. Unfortunately, what we got in this market right now, we got too many people drinking a Kool-Aid. They're all sort of, repeating the same hymn. I'm not going to say cult-like, because you can't really say that nowadays with everything going on politically, but you had these people that are spinning it, and what the market ought to do, if I could have my way, they ought to embrace the other side. Because if you get both sides of the story, you probably get a pretty good sense. So any developer out there that doesn't like me and speaks publicly about me, I will tell you, when I meet them, a lot of them tend to ask me what the hell's going on, because they know I'm going to give them a straight talk answer to some of it. And I did it 2 or 3 weeks ago, Jenny. Business Journal had an event. There were 3 developers. There was a sell-side broker, and there was me. Yeah. And I went up there against all of them, and I was kind of laying it out. And near the end of it, I'd like to think that maybe I was able to convince or convey my message to a lot of the people who were in the audience. Yeah. So, different times, but we're still, we're fighting the good fight. We're bringing the information out. Why? Because transparency, Jenny, When a market goes sideways and people don't know what to do, the numbers are always there, and that's what will get people to the other side rather than sitting on the sidelines. Any thought about that?
Yeah, I think and you just say something that really relevant, like transparency. We are famous for that. We're famous for telling you the truth, and it's very rare, because everybody has another motive to lie. For example, if you want to sell a given condo in a given building, you say that the building is fantastic and whatever, and blah 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 blah. But if you are transparent, then you want to say, you better take a look, bring an expert to take a closer look or whatever. And because we are not for the deal, we are for the client. And that's the difference between the normal industry because, well, the industry issue is that you have to be a salesperson. And in reality, we provide a service. We provide information for the client to take a very good decision based on the information they received. And that's our goal always be. We have a good reputation, thank God. We have people that can say, that work with us for years and they continue to work with us. So, it is, it feels pretty good at the end when you say, I can sleep at night. I never get somebody into a bad investment unless they really wanted to go and then I can tell you, hey, I told you so.
And you like to say that to people. You definitely like to remind them that you told them so.
I don't know anybody that don't want to say to anybody else, I told you so. At least honestly don't know. That the stats were harder to find back then. Doing the programs and when you mention all these interviews with Mike Cannon and all that is really cool if you can share those links in YouTube. But doing a video was a production. It was like a week work. Now we can have live like this and we can cover a lot of information that we couldn't 20 years ago. It was more and more difficult to do the job. Now, the problem now is that we have so much information that we have to investigate more and try to grab what is really the truth because there is so many truths out there. So you just have to be careful what you believe. And now the information that we have access to lead us to misinformation. And that's a fact that now people is overwhelmed with, these towers, these tours, the people when they take them, they say, wow, I just can't get over that. I really have a context. I felt super overwhelmed before I did this. And now that I walk it and I understand it, I touch it and feel it, and I have access to the stats, then I understand it better. It's like a master class, if you will.
And, and that's why I say, when you look at the condo market in South Florida, when you're east of Interstate 95, this is a trading pit. This is a trading floor for condos, just like they used to trade stocks. They used to trade commodities. They traded everything in markets where you had a trading pit or a floor where people would have a coat on. They would be wearing a number. Their hands were out. They were selling. Hands were in. They were buying. That's what you're doing when you're dealing with a condo market. Who goes in and purchases a stock based on emotion? Oh, I like the name. Nobody does that. You do your due diligence. So why would you go after real estate? Probably your biggest investment, one-time investment. Why would you do that without numbers? And unfortunately, too many people sort of fall in love with all of the special things, the touchy-feely, the idea that maybe some of the brokers make them feel smart. They make them feel charismatic. They make them feel special. They get them to sign the line. And then at the end of the day, when it all goes out, let me tell you, that condo, when it goes to retrade, it's retrading like every other condo. There's nothing special about it, at least in my book. Jenny, you might not agree, but I say condos are like oil. They're like salty snacks. They're like pork bellies. You trade them, price per square foot. Maybe you add a little bit of value because it's got a name brand or maybe the location or the view, but the fundamentals are all the same. And that's why I was able to do condo pricing for developers, help them come up with pricing as to real numbers that were going to kind of make some sense. Now, the numbers we're seeing today do not make sense increasingly, and we're going to get into that momentarily. Jenny, one last point I want to sort of bring up before we kind of wind down the celebration discussion is back in 2009, when the market was unraveling, I had a bunch of lenders telling me, listen, is there any way to figure out if these associations are on solid footing? Because when a bank goes to provide financing, they're basically getting a condo questionnaire. They're getting something signed. I like to joke the person, filling it out, this paperwork, they might have been boozing the night before. They might be half hung over. They're filling it out, and you're making a lending decision based on that. Now, it's one thing if you can sell the loan under Fannie Mae or to like a third party. It's another thing if you have to portfolio it. So the banks came out to me 15 years ago or so and said, hey, is there anything you can do? Finally, because of technology, finally, because of all the transparency that's coming as a result of the Surfside condo collapse back in June of 2021, when nearly 100 people died and $1 billion settlement was paid out to families of the victims. Jenny, we're finally going to jump in this summer. That's what I'm looking forward to this summer. And we're going to start to rate condo associations based on their financial stability. We're not looking at the floors. We're not looking at we're going to tell you, does this condo association, is it actually operating? And Jen, you know what? If we're good at this, you're going to be able to put valuations on buildings, not based on comparables down the block, but actually building by building, just like maybe Apple stock trades at this price versus, Samsung. Well, Samsung doesn't trade, but Nokia, let's say, or BlackBerry. That's what we're going after. That's going to be the next dragon we're going to look to sort of slay. But just imagine, Jen, if you can figure out which buildings are well run, which ones are not well run, and then you can go in there and you can make a decision. You're going to go into it or you're not going to go into it. So that should be a fun challenge. Everybody, it's going to be called Condo Ratings Agency. The Condo Ratings Agency. We already have the URLs. We have all that stuff. We've been collecting this information forever and ever and ever. So just like we keep bringing new things to market, that'll be the next one. That is going to be the Don Quixote moment. Something we've been chasing. We've been chasing this windmill for a while, but it's finally coming to the point where we're gradually, slowly going to get in that space. And, we're going to be straight shooters. We're not necessarily going to put the positive spin on it like you're going to get from the sell side. So if that is something you're interested in, I'd encourage you to sort of check it out and watch it. But if you want to get more information on condos, for the immediacy, go ahead and take our tour this Saturday. We're doing Brickell Avenue area. We're going to go from the Miami River south to the Eddie Reichenbach Causeway. We'll go to Bay west to Interstate 95. We're not going to walk all of it, but we're going to give you perspective on all of it. Jenny, any final comments you want to make about any of that before we jump into the Brickell numbers?
Yes. Yeah, I think you came to disrupt the market 20 years ago as trying to represent buyers only, because when you go to the real estate school, they want to teach you to get listings and then the buyers come along. And in this, I know for a fact that you've been trying to do the condo ratings for many years, but then the new boom came along, and then we start following what new towers were coming with crane spotters, and then the tours, and then the market, is correcting again. So it's like there was no time in between. We need to have 2 or 3 periods, and we couldn't really clone you. But I think it's again, it's trying to put this industry in perspective, because for how long and how often we see a lot of these smaller buildings, managers doing, like plastic surgery and stealing the money. Just last week, there was in the news a lady that stole, like $2 million, and she is all produced. Probably she doesn't look like she used to. Like they cannot really ID her. But those things still keep happening. Why? Because there is not enough transparency in the industry. So that will keep to have all these people keep them honest, or at least police in some way. So yeah, I think it's a great segue from a corrective market into the rating of the buildings. It's going to be really helpful for buyers, for corporations that want to acquire bulk, because we're probably going to see again bulk, and we know that it's going to happen. So yeah, it's great.
Well, but the flip side is the way I see this going down, the cleanup from Surfside, I don't think it's done till 2030, probably 2032. Because right now, all of these buildings have been studied. Now they have to do the work next 3 years or so. They're going to be doing the work. People are going to be swinging hammers. People are going to hit with special assessments. Those projects that can't make it, they're going to get terminated. Then they're going to have to hire a bunch of pretty people. They're going to have to send them out there to try to promote whatever the developer is to go ahead and build on that same space. By the time they construct it, it all comes online. You're probably talking 2032. So, Jenny, I can see by the time we get to 2032, we're probably in a market where, now sit down, we might be trading condos online, just like you buy flights, just like you book a hotel, just like you buy cars now. That ultimately might be where we are in 2032, where people are basically trading these condos like what? Could say it out loud, like a commodity. That's where we're going, everybody. So, if this sounds foreign to you, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Trust me, there's a lot of stuff that Jenny and I say that people say is crazy, and then you know what? They all end up using it. Most recently, vintage condo. That's the perfect example. So, thank you everybody for tuning into the podcast. We do these weekdays at 4:00. Mondays, I always do with Jenny, Miami Condo Mondays. Jen, you ready to get in the Brickell Avenue area now that we've blown enough smoke up ourselves?
No, well, yes, for sure, but there has to be said. We don't have the chance to say on this because we're always busy talking about something else. But that puts in perspective why we're here today and why we're giving this information. We don't rehearse. We just go live and go over the flow or over the area. So no, it's on sale. Let's do it.
Remember, this video is going to be available tonight. It'll be on demand. If you want to see the whole video, though, watch it again. You're going to have to be a member of the Miami Condo Investing Club. We're building a community of those people interested in condos. We share real-time information. We give you the intel. You can take it and do whatever the heck it is you want to do with it. Whether you're a DIY buyer, you're a buyer with a broker, you're a listing side agent who can't peddle their condos, they don't know why. You're a lender. Maybe you're maybe you're a regulator trying to figure out what's going on in the condo market. We're shooting straight. We source our information. And most important, we have institutional knowledge. And I got here in 93. Jenny got here around the same time. We've been in the industry. We've seen the ebbs and flows. We knew the developers. We know their kids who have now taken over. We know which developers went to jail. We know which ones got indicted. We kind of know all that. So think of it like encyclopedia, or if you will, from people being on the ground. So, Jen, let's roll up the sleep. Let's get in the Brickell Avenue area. You ready? All right. I'm going to pull up some data. We'll start off with the data, then we'll start to walk our way through it. We'll start with the data first. Then we're going to go into the Mandarin Oriental. We're going to talk about the implosion. I got a bunch of questions I got to ask about that because some of the stuff